Hello, today's video lecture is about the endosymbiotic theory and viruses. Endosymbiotic theory is a theory that proposes that eukaryotic cells arose or came from living communities formed by prokaryotic organisms. So remember, we can always break big words into smaller chunks. So endo means inside, symbiotic means a close relationship. So endosymbiotic theory is just that the eukaryotic cells came about from living communities that were made up of prokaryotic organisms. Okay, I don't know why this is not going to the next slide. Oh, here we go. All right, so prokaryotes entered ancestral eukaryotes. Prokaryotes did not act as a parasite by infecting the host. The eukaryotes did not digest the prokaryotes. Instead, what happened was the smaller prokaryotes began living inside the larger cell, giving rise to eukaryotes. So the endosymbiotic theory basically explains the origins of eukaryotic cells. So here is a picture of what scientists believe occurred. So you have the primitive prokaryotic host cell, you have some aerobic bacteria, and so that aerobic bacteria started living inside of that primitive prokaryotic host cell. Over time, the bacteria turned into the mitochondria, and then this cell arose to eukaryotic cells in animals, fungus, and then also it led to eukaryotic cells that are found in plants and in protists, because you had some, oops, I did not mean to do that. I just meant to bring my screen down a little bit. There you go. Okay, so you have some photosynthetic bacteria that started living inside of the primitive prokaryotic host cell. And so over time, this cell became a plant cell. All right, so the endosymbiotic theory, I did not mean to do that. Sorry, I'm just trying to bring my screen up so you guys can see. This is a hot mess. Sorry. Okay, there you go. All right, so these are the pieces of evidence that support the endosymbiotic theory. So first, mitochondria and chloroplasts have DNA that's similar to bacterial DNA. Second piece of evidence is that mitochondria and chloroplasts have ribosomes whose size and structure resembles those of bacteria. And then finally, like bacteria, mitochondria and chloroplasts reproduce by binary fission when the cells containing them divide by mitosis. So these are the pieces of evidence that support the endosymbiotic theory. We're going to just pause a minute and look at this question. And so it says, which of the following summarizes the endosymbiotic theory? Mitochondria and chloroplasts in eukaryotes were once prokaryotes. Ribosomes and lysosomes in eukaryotes were once prokaryotes. Mitochondria and chloroplasts are now found inside prokaryotes, or none of the above. All right, so we could eliminate one of these choices off the bat, and we could eliminate C, because we know that prokaryotic cells do not have membrane-bound organelles. The mitochondria and chloroplasts are not found in prokaryotes. So we know the answer is not D, and so the answer is A. Mitochondria and chloroplasts in eukaryotes were once prokaryotes. That's what scientists believe. Okay, let's look at the next question. So which of the following are true? Mitochondria has DNA similar to prokaryotes. Ribosomes in eukaryotes are similar to prokaryotes. When mitochondria create more of themselves, they divide similar to how prokaryotes divide. Okay, so all of these are true. These are all pieces of evidence that support the endosymbiotic theory. So now we're going to shift gears and talk about viruses. So I know there's been, oops, sorry. Just trying to move my screen. Okay, let me go back. All right, so virus comes from the Latin word for poison. Viruses are particles of nucleic acids, protein, and in some cases, lipids that can reproduce only by infecting living cells. So viruses can only reproduce if they start living inside of a cell. And viruses are so small that they can only be seen using special types of microscopes or the electron microscope. So here are some pictures of the flu virus, the Ebola virus, AIDS virus, bacteriophage. I don't know, in the news, there's a lot of, you guys are probably very familiar with the coronavirus. So I probably need to update this and add that picture to this slide going forward. So you guys are probably experts on viruses at this point because of all of the information that's been in the news about the coronavirus. All right, so viruses have no organelles. A typical virus is composed of a core of either DNA or RNA surrounded by a protein coat. Here are some more pictures of different viruses. And so a virus outer protein coat is called its capsid. This is the capsid, it's the outer protein coat. And it allows a virus to enter a host cell. The capsid binds to the surface of the cell and tricks the cell into allowing it inside. So once inside the cell, the viral genes take over. The cell will transcribe, and you guys should be familiar with that vocabulary word. We talked about transcription in our genetics unit, but the cell will transcribe the viral genes, putting the genetic program of the virus into effect. And a lot of times the virus will destroy that host cell. And so we see this animation. So you see the virus is inserting its DNA or RNA into this cell, and it's reproducing, and once it reproduces, it will destroy that host cell. All right, so a vaccine is a preparation, and I'm sorry, I should have warned you guys about these pictures, but a vaccine is a preparation of a weakened or killed pathogen. Upon injection, it simulates the antibody production or your cellular immunity against the pathogen, but it's incapable of causing severe infection or sickness. So when you get a vaccine, it's a weakened or killed version of the virus that they insert into you. And so I know, like, you guys are probably aware of the fact that they are still working on a vaccine for the coronavirus. And so they said that they will have a vaccine within 18 months, hopefully sooner. So a worldwide vaccination program was able to eliminate smallpox. The thing that you guys need to remember about viruses is that antibiotics will not cure a viral infection. So antibiotics you can use on bacteria, but you can't use on viruses. And these are just some pictures of smallpox and what it does to the body. So here's a video on viruses. Let me see if I click it, what happens. All right, so the video is not working. So I'm going to go on to the next slide. And so now we're just going to compare and contrast bacteria and viruses. So bacteria are cells, they can reproduce on their own. Viruses, they need a host. They must have a host to reproduce. Bacteria have organelles. We learned that viruses have no organelles. Bacteria are large in size compared to viruses. Now, we know bacteria are microscopic, but when you compare a bacteria and a virus, it's large compared to the virus. Viruses are very, very small. They're so small they can infect bacteria. So you have viruses that will infect a bacteria called bacteriophages. So they are that small. And then the bacteria has a cell wall for protection. A virus has a capsid or that protein coat for protection. And then what are some similarities? What do you guys think? All right, so they both contain DNA or RNA. They both cause disease. We are very well aware of that with this coronavirus going around. I'm sorry, so make sure you guys get that down on your note sheet. All right, so let's look at these questions. Which of the following statements is true about viruses? Viruses do not have DNA. Viruses must have a host to reproduce. Antibiotic kills viruses. Viruses have organelles. Okay, so we learned that viruses, the answer is B. Viruses must have a host to reproduce. Viruses do have DNA. Antibiotics do not kill viruses. They only kill bacteria. And viruses have, they don't have organelles. So the answer to this question is B. Viruses must have a host to reproduce. Which of the following is the smallest? White blood cell, pollen, bacteria, or virus? We know that viruses are extremely small, and so a virus would be the smallest out of all of these. Okay, which of the following do viruses not have? Okay, so we learned that viruses don't have any organelles. And DNA is located where? Okay, DNA, you guys should remember, DNA is located in the nucleus. All right, so that is it for endosymbiotic theory in viruses.